So, hello. I just thought I'd do a breakdown video of the big fight on Saturday night. And you might be surprised by who I predict. But, I mean, we all know Anthony Joshua. We know all the fights he's been through. Daniel Dubois, for some reason, is still quite an unknown entity, but I've seen, I mean, fight fans will know him very well, but the general public won't know him that well. Yeah, I'm very impressed. I've always been impressed, I should say, by Daniel Dubois. What Anthony Joshua's done, like from the Olympics. I remember seeing him in the Olympics and thinking, it would be a good one for the future. I honestly thought that he might stay on and do another 4 years in the amateurs and then turn professional, because I thought he was a bit raw. And to be fair, he was. Under the coach Robert McCracken, he was raw all the way up to winning the world title, and still good enough to win the world title. I think his punch power and the fights, the opponents that he had leading to the world title. I mean, Charles Martin wasn't a world champion. He was technically, but not by merit, I don't think. I think it was a very easy world title for Joshua to win. Saying that, he seemed to be improving, like with the Klitschko fight, and but I could still see a lot of naivety and rawness in the way he fought, and he got exposed. Personally, the fight with the Mexican, I forget his name now, the guy who beat him for the world title, that's how memorable he is. Yeah, he exposed him, and I remember he was supposed to be fighting Jarrell Miller, and I thought actually at the time Jarrell Miller, even though he was being touted as like a main threat, and someone like Jarrell Miller will always be a big threat to any heavyweight, because of his sheer size, power, and speed for his size is pretty impressive for a man over 20 stone, you know. But yeah, I mean, so when his replacement came in, because Jarrell Miller failed to pass the drugs test, yeah, Joshua was exposed there. And then he came back, he sort of went back to his old amateur way of fighting. Robert McCracken took him back to his basics, and he won the rematch. Now, for me, it wasn't that impressive, because the guy was way overweight. He'd obviously been living it up since he won the world title off Joshua. And yeah. But then, in the background, this up and coming fighter, I say up and coming fighter, you've got to remember, Daniel Dubois is a lot more experienced than Joshua. He's been fighting a lot longer than him, you know. Joshua started late, and I feel he's still learning. But the thing is, the problem is, your body catches up with you. So when you start, I know they say it doesn't really matter for a heavyweight, but it still catches up with you when you've had a few hard fights, and he did. And Usyk was just, he's just different class. I honestly thought that Fury beat Usyk. Personal thoughts. Fury was lucky in one of the rounds to not get knocked out, but he took it. What annoyed me about the Fury Usyk fight was Fury was he could have knocked Usyk out. You saw him round 6, 7? Usyk was out of it. He was out of it. You could see he was giving up in his corner, and he had a second wind and just gave it everything he had, and got. But Fury let him. Now I'm not a Fury fanboy. I'm not anyone's fanboy. I tell it as it is. But I think Saturday night, the fight we're talking about, Saturday night, Daniel Dubois. I think he'll have too much for Joshua as well. Realistically, we've got to look at it realistically. Of course, Joshua's always got that puncher's chance. We know the fight against Joyce where Dubois, he pulled out. I mean, he had a bad eye injury. I don't know what that feels like. Although I do know what it feels like, the fight he had against Usyk, where I thought he beat Usyk. He thought he beat Usyk. It looked a punch on the waistline. Watching that fight, he had Usyk's number, Daniel Dubois. Mentally, I know what that feels like. I've been in those fights myself, where you feel like you've won, and then the referee penalizes you for something. It's very hard to get back on. I mean, I never had a fight plan personally, because I always fought by instinct, so I never really had a fight plan. But Dubois would have had a fight plan. All right, this was the biggest fight of his life. He was beating Usyk, and he landed a legitimate body punch for me. Usyk's shorts were pretty high, and that fight should have been over. It was a legitimate body punch, and Usyk played on it. He played on it. Now, he has to. He's not stupid. Usyk's a very clever fighter, and pound for pound is probably the best fighter out there. Okay? And I say that with caution because he's in the heavyweight, he's in with the big boys now, and even though he's put on the weight required and he looks pretty good with it, he's not the Usyk that I've seen in the past at light heavy and in cruiserweight. Cruiserweight was his perfect weight. Okay, let's get it real here. Usyk was unstoppable at cruiserweight. No one could beat him at cruiserweight. And I thought, like everybody else, heavyweight probably too much for him. But I knew he'd get to world title level. I didn't think he'd beat Joshua. I don't think he beat Fury. I'm sorry, but I don't. And Fury, he just should have finished Usyk when he had the chance. But he, like Fury does sometimes, except for that Wilder 2 fight where he was just brutal. He has to get to that. He has to be in that mindset, Fury, to beat Usyk. But he might not get the opportunity because I believe he'll probably fight Dubois. I can't see that rematch going ahead. I honestly think there's going to be twists and turns. I honestly think Usyk is going to get out of that fight with Fury somehow. I honestly believe they have a plan to get out of that fight. Right, I've been talking for 10.5 minutes and you're all wondering what my breakdown of the fight will be for Saturday night. Well, my breakdown for the fight for Saturday night will be both men will try and hold the centre of the ring. Dubois will fight more of a counter. I mean, they're both planning to do counter punching, I mean, because Joshua's new trainer, Tyson Fury's old trainer, is quite a defensive-minded trainer, and you could see Joshua wanted a trainer that was going to give him longevity, let's say, not just in fights but in his career. He's got more fights he wants to fight, you know. He has got a legacy. People like Fury haven't got a legacy. Fury just, he does it because he enjoys it. And he believes what he believes. He believes he's the best of all time. I don't. I think Lennox Lewis is the best of all time in the heavyweight division. But that's his opinion. His fans will say the same probably. But I think Dubois wins this fight. They'll both try and hold centre of the ring, do a lot of feints. Joshua, even though he's got a game plan, he'll get excited because he'll think, this is Dubois. He'll always think in his head, even though he knows Dubois is dangerous, he'll always think in his head that he's above Dubois. He'll always think he's the better fighter. You can tell by the way they stare at each other, the way they face off. Joshua thinks he's the better fighter, and he's not. Dubois has been fighting a lot longer than him. Whatever he trains, however he practices his combinations, he does them in the ring. He doesn't leave it all in the gym. Joshua trains very hard. I've seen his training sessions, and a lot of what he does in his training sessions he doesn't implement in the ring, i.e. combinations, good fast jab. Often he jabs often in training, doesn't jab often in fights. Dubois fights exactly how he trains because he's been doing it a lot longer. And for me, I'm not saying it's straightforward, but I do believe he'll come out victorious. And I like both fighters, don't get me wrong. I think they're both stand-up guys, nice guys, good advert for boxing. You know, they know the game as well, they study it. And they're just genuinely nice guys. And I think when it comes down to it, I think Dubois, and you might not agree with me, I mean, say what you think in the comments, but my opinion is I think Dubois has got more of a killer instinct. He's got the Frank Bruno build, but he's got the Mike Tyson, Marciano. He reminds me a lot of Marciano, don't get me wrong. He hasn't got the crouching style, but some of his movements and some of his footwork remind Marciano very unique. Marciano was very underrated, even though he was the only unbeaten heavyweight champion. He was very underrated because his footwork was it was brilliant. If you study Rocky Marciano, you'll see. Watch his footwork. Watch his footwork. He was a short guy. He was about my height, and probably only weighed about a stone heavier than me. But he was solid. He was solid. Pause. He was solid. He was his footwork was crazy. But yeah, getting back to the fight, my prediction. This is the thing, you know, because they're both big hitters. It could go early, but it's more than likely gonna go late. And I'm thinking around 6, 7, 8 rounds, possibly 9. I'm thinking something's gonna happen, and I think Dubois is gonna land this big punch that catches Joshua by surprise, because he has got punches that Joshua has never faced before, and this is the reason why he edges it for me. So he edges it for 1, experience, 2, implementing what he does in training into his boxing in fights, 3, he throws punches that Joshua's never faced before, 4, he throws combinations, and 5, even though he was stopped by Usyk controversially, he was stopped. He already thought he won the fight, and but when you see the fights against Miller and Hrgović, and honestly, I believe Miller and Hrgović have more damaging punches than Joshua has he has the timing, he has the speed of a punch, okay? Speed. I don't believe he has the power of a Hrgović or Miller. But he has the speed, and sometimes the speed and timing can be more damaging than the power. But when you combine them all together, if Dubois on point, it could go early. It could go early. I think Joshua will be shocked. But I'm gonna say between 6 and 9, Dubois. Even though I've got this terrible feeling that it could go early. I hope it doesn't go early. I hope it's a good fight. I hope it's a good spectacle. I hope both men, I mean, I don't care who wins out of the two, but I just believe that Dubois shades it, and if he's on point, he not only shades it, he wins comfortably, and he wins by knockout. So that's my prediction. Now, tell me what you think. I think Dubois for those reasons. If you think for other reasons, tell me why I'm wrong. But we will see on Saturday night. We will see. I might be talking absolute bull out my arse, and it ends up a draw, a boring draw, which I hope it doesn't. But yeah, tell me what you think. All right, guys.